Welcome to The Deep Dive. This is where we take your source material, really dig in and try to pull out the insights that matter most, cutting through the noise for you. Today we're diving into some pretty fascinating ancient wisdom. It's a text called Atmabodha Sanskrit, which means self-knowledge. And our listeners shared some key excerpts from this Vedanta philosophy. So our mission today is to really unpack what it says about the self, who we are, and the path to, liberation.
Yeah, and what's really striking about Ātmabodha, I think, is that it's not just theory. It's presented as a practical guide.
Right.
It really lays out a direct way to understand who we truly are beyond just our day-to-day thoughts and feelings.
Okay, let's start there then. The sources seem to say this self-knowledge is for people who've quieted their minds a bit.
Yes, that's a prerequisite.
And are free from certain impurities, it says, and really want freedom. So it's not just casual reading.
Definitely not. It implies a certain readiness, a real sincerity from the person seeking. It's transformative stuff, not just information.
Got it. Okay, so one of the first big takeaways from Ātmabodha is this point that knowledge is the direct path.
The only direct path.
Yeah. It uses that great analogy. Liberation isn't achieved without knowledge, just as cooking needs fire. So it's about knowing, not doing.
Exactly. And that immediately brings up the question, well, what about actions, good deeds, karma?
Right, that's what most people think of.
And Ātmabodha is very clear here. It says actions, karma, cannot remove ignorance, Avidyā, because they are not contradictory.
Okay.
Think about it, like doing something good doesn't automatically correct a fundamental misunderstanding about reality, but knowledge does.
Like light dispelling darkness.
Precisely. Knowledge destroys ignorance, like light dispelling darkness. You can't act your way out of ignorance. You have to know your way out. It's a really key distinction.
That's a powerful image. So knowledge is the light. Ignorance is the darkness. The text says the self seems limited because of this ignorance.
Yeah, it appears that way.
But when ignorance is destroyed, the self shines forth by itself, like the sun after clouds clear.
And it adds another layer, quite subtle. This knowledge, once it does its job, once it purifies the self from ignorance, it then disappears, like coconut powder purifying water and then settling out.
Oh, interesting. So the knowledge itself isn't the end goal.
It's the tool, the catalyst. Once the water's clear, the powder settles, it's done its work.
Okay, now this next part, this is where it gets, pretty mind-bending for everyday thinking.
The nature of reality, yeah.
It talks about samsara, this cycle of existence, right?
Birth, death, rebirth, the whole cycle.
And it says samsara is like a dream full of attachment and aversion. It seems real while in it, but unreal upon awakening. So our whole life experience, potentially a dream.
That's the implication, a profound reframing. And to back that up, it says the world appears real only until Brahman.
Brahman being the ultimate reality.
The non-dual substratum of everything, yes. Until Brahman is known, like a mother of pearl appearing as silver.
Until you look closer and see it's not silver at all.
Exactly. The idea is that the variety we see, the multiplicity, it's just an appearance on this single underlying reality.
And building on that, it also says, worlds arise, exist, and dissolve in the Supreme Lord, like bubbles in water.
Gives you that sense of scale, doesn't it? Constant change on an unchanging base.
Yeah. And then another analogy. Various manifestations are projected upon the ever-existent conscious self, like ornaments on gold.
Beautiful, right. The gold is the reality. The ornaments, the forms, the experiences, they come and go, but the gold remains gold.
So what is this self then, this Ātman? Because clearly it's not just me, the person.
Right. The text says the all-pervading self appears diversified due to different adjuncts.
Upadis. Upadis, what are those?
Think of them as limiting conditions or superimpositions, like it says space appearing divided by containers. Space itself isn't divided, but the pots make it seem divided.
Okay, I see.
When adjuncts cease, it becomes one. So things like caste, color, status.
The usual ways we define ourselves?
Exactly. Those are superimposed on the self due to various adjuncts, like flavor or color in water. The water itself isn't inherently flavored. The flavor is added.
Got it. So these adjuncts, these upadis, let's unpack them more. The text mentions different bodies.
It does. It breaks down these layers of seeming limitation. First, there's the obvious one, the physical body.
Made of elements, shaped by past actions, karma, the place we feel pleasure and pain.
Right, the gross body.
Yeah.
Then there's the subtle body.
Okay.
This is the vital energies, panas, the mind, the intellect, the senses, made of finer stuff. It's the instrument of experience.
So the Physical body feels, the subtle body processes.
Kind of, yeah. And then the deepest layer is the causal adjunct, which is beginningless, indescribable ignorance, Avidyā.
Ignorance again. The root cause.
Exactly. And the core message is you have to distinguish the true self from these three adjuncts: physical, subtle, causal.
It uses that lovely analogy, too, about the 5 sheaths, or Kosha.
Right. Another way to map these layers.
It says the pure self appears identified with the 5 sheaths, like a crystal appearing blue when placed on blue cloth.
The crystal isn't blue. The sheaths aren't the self. These sheaths are, layers like the physical, energy, mental, intellectual, and a bliss layer. They all cover the self.
So how do you separate them?
Through discernment, logical analysis. The text says to separate the pure inner self from the sheaths, like separating rice from husk and chaff.
Like getting to the actual grain inside.
Precisely. Requires careful attention, moving beyond the surface appearance.
Okay, so if the self isn't these layers, what is its true nature? It says the self is omnipresent, but doesn't show up everywhere.
Well, it manifests, or rather reflects most clearly in the intellect, buddhi, like reflections in clear surfaces.
So the intellect is like a mirror.
A clear mirror allows the reflection. So the text emphasizes knowing the self as distinct from body, senses, mind, intellect, and nature. Prakriti.
Prakriti being the material world.
Yes, the source of manifestation. The self is distinct from all that. It's a witness to their activities, like a king.
A witness, like a king, just observing, not doing.
Exactly. It observes but doesn't perform.
So when I feel like I'm thinking, I'm acting, that's not the self. That feels so counterintuitive.
It is, and the text anticipates this. When senses are active, the self appears active to the undiscerning.
Appears active?
Like the moon appearing to run when clouds move. The moon isn't running.
No, the clouds are moving up.
Okay, so body, senses, mind, and intellect function by relying on the self's consciousness, like people acting in sunlight.
The sun enables the action, but isn't doing the acting itself.
Exactly. The self's light, its consciousness, enables everything, but it's not the doer.
Which explains why qualities and actions of body senses are superimposed on the pure self due to non-discrimination.
Right.
Like blueness in the sky isn't blue.
Or agency, falsely attributed to the self, like movement attributed to the moon reflected in water due to the water's movement.
Wow. So my sense of being the doer, the feeler, it's a mistake. Based on these adjuncts, this ignorance.
That's the core message, and this leads to a huge question. What about desire, pleasure, pain? Things that feel so real, so me.
Yeah, what about those?
Ātmabodha says, desire, pleasure, pain, etc. exist when the intellect is present. Think about deep sleep.
Okay, they're not there in deep sleep.
They cease in deep sleep. Therefore, they belong to the intellect, not the self.
Whoa, okay, that changes everything. If all that isn't the self, then what is?
The text gives these incredible descriptors. The self's nature is existence, consciousness, bliss, eternality, and purity.
Existence, consciousness, bliss.
Oh.
Sat Chidananda.
Exactly, like the sun's light, water's coolness, fire's heat. These are its inherent qualities, unchangeable.
So that feeling of, I know something, where does that come from?
It arises, the text says, from non-discrimination. It's a mix-up. You're combining the self's aspect of consciousness with the intellect's modification, like the thought form itself.
A blending error.
Yes. The self has no modification. The intellect has no inherent knowledge. The individual, the jiva.
The jiva being the apparent limited self.
Yes. The empirical self that experiences the world. The jiva mistakes themselves to be the knower-seer due to ignorance.
And that mistake, it matters.
Oh, profoundly. Mistaking the self for the individual, jiva, causes fear. Like mistaking a rope for a snake.
The classic analogy. You see a rope in the dark, think it's a snake, and panic.
Right, but the fear vanishes when you see it's just a rope. Similarly, knowing I am not the jiva, but the supreme self brings fearlessness.
That's the ultimate aha moment. Liberation from fear.
That's the promise.
So how do you get there? How do you achieve that realization? The text offers a method, right?
It does. It starts by understanding the self's nature as the illuminator. The self alone illumines intellect, senses, etc., like a lamp illuminating a pot.
Okay.
The self is not illumined by inert things. And because it is consciousness...
It doesn't need another light.
Exactly. The self, being consciousness itself, does not need another consciousness to be known, just as a lamp does not need another lamp to illuminate itself.
It's self-luminous.
Self-luminous, which leads to the practical method. Denying all adjuncts through neti-neti.
Neti-neti, meaning not this, not this.
Yes. Systematically negating everything you are not. Not the body, not the senses, not the mind, not the thoughts, not the feelings.
Peeling away all the layers of misidentification.
Until only the irreducible self remains. And this process leads you to realize the unity of the individual self and supreme self through Mahavakyas.
The Mahavakyas, the great sayings, like, thou art that.
Precisely. Tattvam asi, thou art that. Aham brahmasmi, I am Brahman. These aren't just philosophical statements, they are pointers to the direct realization that happens when the ignorance, the adjuncts, are seen through via neti.
So it's a path of discrimination, of subtraction, leading to this profound unity.
That's the essence of the path laid out here.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this ancient wisdom from Ātmabodha mean for you, the listener, exploring this? It seems that it's really an invitation, isn't it?
Absolutely.
An invitation to shift perspective, radically, to move focus from the temporary, the changing, the limitations we feel,
to the unchanging, ever-present, pure awareness that is your true nature.
And connecting this to the bigger picture, it suggests ultimate freedom, that fearlessness we talked about.
Yeah.
It's not about getting something new.
No, not acquiring more or even doing more. It's about realizing what you already are beneath all the layers.
Which leaves us with a really interesting question to ponder, doesn't it? If all those experiences, the joys, the sorrows, the sense of doing things, if they actually belong to the intellect, to the mind, and not to your true self,
which is pure existence, consciousness, bliss,
then what does it really mean to live or to find happiness? If your fundamental nature is bliss, untouched by the ups and downs, well, that's something profound to sit with.
Definitely something to explore further on your own journey of self-discovery. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really embarking on something special. An incredible journey into, well, quite an ancient text, Ātmabodha Part 2, The Path to Self-Realization.
That's right.
And our mission really here is to try and crack this open. It's dense, philosophical stuff, but we want to pull out the most vital insights, maybe surprising ones too, and, make them genuinely accessible for you.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into this timeless question, what is the true nature of the self? And crucially, how can you actually achieve that profound understanding? Liberation, even. So, prepare to maybe question a few things you thought you knew about yourself.
Absolutely. And, the thing is, this isn't just some academic exercise. It's not a dusty old scroll just for scholars.
Right.
It's surprisingly practical. A guide, really, offering this unique perspective on identity, on reality itself, and ultimately on finding a kind of happiness that lasts, that doesn't just, depend on what's happening outside.
That sounds pretty appealing.
It is. And what's amazing, really, is how fresh it feels. Even though it's centuries old, the insights into how we perceive ourselves, how we see the world, they directly challenge so many ideas we still hold today. It's quite remarkable.
Okay, so let's get into it. Let's unpack this. You're saying the text starts by kind of tearing things down, our basic assumptions.
Pretty much, yeah. It dives right in.
It says that what we usually identify with is fleeting. Like, it mentions the body and the visible world are ephemeral like a bubble.
Exactly. Ephemeral like a bubble. Think about that.
Wow. So everything physical, everything you see, touch, even your own body, just momentary, like a soap bubble.
That's the starting point.
Yep.
Yeah. It's radical.
Definitely radical.
And what's so fascinating is how it immediately starts dismantling our usual idea of self.
Okay.
It draws this really sharp line between the true self, with a capital S, and, the physical body, the mental stuff we usually cling to.
The thoughts, feelings.
Right. All of that. It makes it super clear. The self is separate from the body, the senses, the mind. It explicitly states the self has no birth, old age, decay, or death.
No birth or death.
None. And it goes on, no connection to sense objects because it is without senses.
Okay.
And because it's without mind, it has no suffering, desire, hatred, or fear.
Without mind. Wow.
Yeah. And to really hammer it home, it quotes scripture saying, the self is without breath, without mind, pure. Pure. So it's not just like old poetry. It's really challenging our modern focus on, staying young, staying healthy, even things like biohacking.
Right. It shifts the focus completely.
It does. It implies real freedom isn't about perfecting this perishable body, but about recognizing something within us that's completely beyond decay. That's a huge shift in perspective.
Okay, wow. So if we're not our bodies, not our emotions, not even our thoughts, the things we usually call me, then what are we? It gets really interesting here, doesn't it?
It does.
But it makes me wonder, If this self is always here, always present, why don't we just feel it? Why don't we perceive it all the time? What's blocking it?
That's precisely the question the text tackles head on. It talks about this pervasive ignorance. The Sanskrit term is avidya.
Ignorance, okay.
And linked to that is this powerful idea of superimposition.
Superimposition, like layering something over something else.
Exactly. The text uses this great analogy. The self is always present, but appears unattained due to ignorance, like a person forgetting the necklace on their own neck.
Huh, that's brilliant. It's right there, but you're frantically looking everywhere else for it.
Precisely. And he uses another one to explain superimposition, the illusion of being an individual soul, jiva, the separate me idea, is superimposed on Brahman, like mistaking a post for a man.
Ah, okay. So in the dark, you see a post, but you think it's a person.
Right.
So we feel like this individual me, but the text is saying that feeling is just an illusion covering up our true nature, which is Brahman.
You got it. Exactly. And the moment you realize, oh, that's just a post, the illusion of the man just vanishes.
Instantly.
And the text says the same thing about the jiva illusion. Oh. It vanishes when the true nature is seen. And it really emphasizes that the knowledge you get from actually experiencing your true nature, it immediately destroys ignorance, I and mine, like correcting a mistaken direction.
Like realizing you've been walking the wrong way.
Exactly. It's not gradual. It's a sudden shift, a profound change in how you see everything.
Okay, so the text really does a demolition job on what we think we are. Body, thoughts, feelings, gone. But if that's not us, then what is? Where does it point? What's our true identity according to this Brahman?
Right. Connecting to that bigger picture, the text gets incredibly precise in defining this ultimate reality. Brahman, or the true self. And it's essentially beyond all the usual categories we use.
So.
It's described as attribulous, inactive, eternal, without change or modification, untainted, formless, and eternally liberated and pure.
Wow. Attributeless, inactive.
Yeah. And it says this, self pervades everything inside and out, like space, but it remains untouched by it all, unchanging, unmoving.
Like space contains everything, but isn't affected by it.
Exactly. And it's described as the ultimate reality, one indivisible bliss, truth, knowledge, and infinite non-dual reality.
Infinite non-dual reality. That's a heavy phrase. It wraps up so much. But, okay, this part about illumination. It says, Brahman is the source of all light, but isn't illuminated by anything else. How does that work? Is it just beyond our usual understanding of light?
Precisely. It's pointing towards a reality that is self-luminous. It doesn't need anything external to shine. The text is quite clear. It is by Brahman's light that the sun and other luminous objects shine, but Brahman itself is not illuminated by them.
So the sun shines because of Brahman?
It is that by which this entire universe is illuminated. That's the claim. And this Brahman, it's everywhere, omnipresent, pervading everything. All things are connected to Brahman. All activity flows from it. He uses analogies like butter pervading milk.
Okay, hidden but everywhere within it.
Right. Or like an iron ball heated by fire.
Well.
The heat pervades the whole ball, right? It shines and illuminates the universe in that way.
So it's not just in everything. It's the reason everything shines, exists, acts. And this feeling of separation, me over here, you over there, the world out there, that's just like that mirage. Looks real, but isn't.
Absolutely. That idea of separation is presented as the grand illusion. The text says a true yogi, someone with the eye of knowledge, actually sees the entire universe within their own self and sees the self as everything.
Sees the universe inside themselves.
Yeah, and it adds, nothing exists apart from the self, just as pots are not distinct from the clay they are made of.
Ah, the clay analogy. So the pot is just a form of clay, not something fundamentally separate.
Exactly. So in the same way, nothing truly exists apart from Brahman. If anything seems separate, it's illusory, like that mirage. And just to kind of summarize its boundless nature, it's described as complete everywhere above, below, and across. It is truth, consciousness, bliss, non-dual, infinite, and eternal. It's beyond all the boxes we try to put things in, neither atomic nor gross, neither short nor long, unborn, imperishable, without form, qualities, or distinctions.
That is incredibly profound and honestly a bit overwhelming to really wrap your head around. But okay, the big question then becomes how? How does someone actually realize this truth? Not just intellectually understand it, but, live it. What's the practical path the text gives for you, for the listener?
Right, and the text does give clear guidance. It really emphasizes consistent effort and a very specific kind of internal work.
Okay, like what?
Well, it highlights the power of consistent affirmation. It says constant practice of the affirmation, I am Brahman, which, translates to I am the absolute reality, removes the distractions of ignorance just as medicine cures diseases.
So it's like taking medicine regularly, not a one-off thing.
Exactly. It's a steady, persistent internal practice, not just a single thought. And it describes the setting, the mindset. Meditate in a solitary place, free from desires, with controlled senses.
Solitude. Focus.
Yes. And the practice itself. The practitioner should mentally dissolve all perceived objects into the self, conceiving of it as pure space.
Dissolve everything into pure space. That sounds intense. It sounds like it would take a lot of effort, a long time.
It implies dedicated practice, definitely. The text uses this really vivid analogy for the transformation. Through constant churning of meditation on the self, the flame of knowledge rises, burning away all the fuel of ignorance.
Churning, like making butter. You have to keep at it.
Right, and that churning produces the flame of knowledge. And this knowledge, it says, is like the dawn dispelling darkness, reveals the self itself like the sun. It's a powerful, transformative awakening.
Dawn breaking, revealing the sun that was always there.
Precisely. And it contrasts the perspectives. One with the eye of knowledge sees the omnipresent self, while one with the eye of ignorance does not, just as a blind person cannot see the shining sun. So it's about developing that inner sight.
Cultivating the eye of knowledge.
And then there's this idea of purification. It says the individual soul, jiva, purified of all impurities by the intense fire of knowledge. Knowledge ignited by listening to these teachings, by meditating, shines like purified gold.
Burning away the dross to reveal the pure gold underneath.
Exactly. It's refinement, letting go of everything that obscures your true nature. And just to reinforce the awakening, it concludes this part by saying, the self, like the sun of wisdom, rises in the heart space, dispelling darkness. It is all-pervading, all-supporting, and illuminates everything.
Rises in the heart space. That's beautiful. Okay, so what's the end result? What's the ultimate outcome of this journey for you, the person undertaking it? What does it actually feel like, this liberated while living state?
Yes, the Jivan Mukta. That's where the text describes this profound transformation, the characteristics of someone who's truly realized their identity as Brahman.
What are they like?
Well, it describes the transformation itself as abandoning the qualities of past conditioning. And it uses another interesting analogy, transforming like a beetle into a bee through intense focus.
Like a complete metamorphosis.
It suggests something that fundamental, yes. Yeah. And having metaphorically crossed the ocean of delusion and slain the demons of attachment and aversion, this yogi, this realized person, resides in profound peace and self-contentment.
Peace and self-contentment. Sounds pretty good.
Doesn't it? Their inner state is described as deep serenity, abandoning attachment to external, impermanent pleasures, content with the joy of the self. One shines inwardly like a lamp placed inside a pot.
Oh, I like that image. A lamp inside a pot. Like a quiet, steady internal light, totally undisturbed by whatever's happening outside. It sort of reminds you of those rare moments of just deep, deep calm. Is that the kind of peace it means?
Precisely that. It's about cultivating that unshakable inner sanctuary, regardless of external storms. And it describes how they interact with the world, too. A sage, it says, though dwelling in the body remains untainted by its characteristics, like space.
Untainted like space.
Yeah. They might even appear foolish, though all-knowing, and move unattached like the wind. They're present, but free.
In the world, but not really of it.
That's a good way to put it. And then it talks about the ultimate merging, upon the dissolution of limiting adjuncts, the things that make us feel separate. The sage merges undifferentiated into the supreme, like water into water, space into space, or light into light.
Wow. Complete dissolution of separation. Just merging back into the source.
Exactly. And the text tries to define Brahman by its sheer, unparalleled value. It says, it is that by gaining which no other gain is sought, that by experiencing which no other happiness is desired, that by knowing which no other knowledge is required.
That sounds ultimate. Like there's literally nothing else you could possibly want or need after that.
That's the implication, the ultimate fulfillment. It even claims that all beings, from the highest deity Brahma downwards, experience only a fraction of this Brahman's bliss in varying degrees.
Just a tiny fraction.
Yeah, and the final promise, it's just immense. It says, one who consistently resorts to the pilgrimage of their own self, a journey described as beyond directions, time, removes suffering, is eternal bliss, untainted and inactive. That person becomes all-knowing, omnipresent, and immortal.
All-knowing, omnipresent, immortal. That's a complete transformation. Wow, what an incredible deep dive, really profound concepts about who we are, what reality is, the idea that our deepest self is already pure, free, infinite. It's truly mind-blowing.
It is, isn't it?
It really makes you stop and think, what do you identify with day to day? And what truly brings that lasting contentment the text talks about? Lots to ponder there.
Absolutely. And maybe as you ponder all this, consider one final thing the text points out. It asserts that Brahman is often described by a unique method, negation of what it is not. You might have heard the Sanskrit phrase, neti neti, not this, not this.
Right, defining something by saying what it isn't.
Exactly. The text uses a specific term, ogleklanko, and emphasizes that Brahman's nature found through this negation is indivisible bliss. So maybe think about this. What does it really mean for something fundamental to be defined not by positive attributes, but by eliminating everything it isn't? And how might that very process, that unique way of looking, lead you towards a deeper grasp of fundamental reality, something to chew on?